You're listening to 94.4 FM Salford City Radio, the Friday Sports Show.
You're listening to 94.4 FM Salford City Radio, the Friday Sports Show with your host, Jimmy Petruzzi, bringing you news from the local area and around the world. And we're very fortunate and privileged on this show to have interviewed some of the world's best athletes, sports people, footballers, coaches, you name it. They've been on the show, and we've also got a segment that speaks to people in the field of psychology and related fields, some of the leading people in the field of psychology and related fields, giving us insights to their work. Today we have a really fascinating guest who's worked in professional sport for a long time. He's worked with professional footballers. He worked with Cambridge Centre of Excellence. He also had a stint with Bury Women's as the manager there, and he's done many roles really. I'm sure he can tell us a bit more about some of the work he's done over the years, but what's quite interesting, he sort of started his own football club. He's going to tell us a bit more about on the show, and he's also working as the lead strength and conditioning coach with Bradford under 16s rugby league, who we're all familiar with, a great rugby league tradition, and around the Salford area we love our rugby league, and we certainly get behind our local team and have an interest in terms of what other teams are doing around the country and the world. So Chris Honor, welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Thanks very much for having me, Jimmy. It's a privilege and an honour, excuse the pun, to be featured.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you on board, Chris. And I suppose we'll start with rugby league, the role you've got at Bradford. How's that getting on, Chris? Give us an idea what you do there and what's the goal there with the players.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently the lead S&C coach for the under-16s category. The club's only part-time, but the lads have been back in training now since just before Christmas, and we've literally just returned back to our main training ground, having been training down at Bradford Park Avenue for the last sort of 5-6 weeks, and it's been really, really good. I've been very fortunate to be invited in there by the lead S&C, or the head of S&C at Bradford, Chris Chapman, who I met, funnily enough, through LinkedIn and doing a podcast. And then you know how it works. You have a conversation with somebody, and before you know it, you're sort of roped into sort of getting involved in what was meant to be like a bit of voluntary work. It seems to have turned into a really, really responsible role, and one that I'm thoroughly enjoying. And we've got some great coaches at Bradford Bulls. The club's got a huge ethos for player development, and when you look at the likes of Luke Gale, that have come through the ranks there, now playing Super League regularly for Leeds Rhinos.
Brilliant.
You can understand why, because they've got such a great infrastructure, and it's a massive privilege to be part of the club.
I can imagine. And what's it been like for you? Because obviously you've got a lot of experience in fitness and strength and conditioning, and you adapt the skills really well. You work with professional athletes for a long time now. What's it been like to sort of transition across from football to working in rugby league? What sort of changes have you had, if any, have you had to have made, and for that age group as well?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, there's not massive amounts of differences, because ultimately the most important thing that we're looking at doing is getting the players moving, and helping them to reduce the risk of injury. But one of the things that we've had to adapt, of course, with the COVID situation is we've done a lot of online Zoom training. So myself, Chris, and Lewis Birchall, who's one of the other coaches, we ran some regular coaching online with the boys through Zoom, and then the lads have been doing some home gym training as well, which has been really, really insightful and good for us. And it's given them that bit of accountability, to keep them going. And Lewis has been doing some work with some Strava challenges. But in terms of differences, I guess really it's just understanding the game and what the impacts are of the game. Obviously in terms of the differences between football and rugby, there's a lot more load being put through you in the game of rugby because of all the amount of contact that's occurring through tackles and that. There's a lot more explosive work as opposed to football, which is predominantly sprint work, change of direction, and all that sort of stuff. But it's it's been very easy to adapt. I've been fortunate to have some great people around me to sort of help support with the planning and preparation of the sessions as well.
Yeah, and I find that the professionalism in rugby league is outstanding, Chris. I mean, like you've mentioned there, how you adapted in the situation, sort of the pandemic situation we face has been sort of very, challenging on many levels. But I find that the professionalism in the game and also the attitude of the players really, they really, that sort of desire to be the best they can be. Have you found the actual lads themselves, have they been really sort of, up for what you're doing and sort of taking it on board and putting it in?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're very fortunate that the lads have really bought into the project that we've got. We've got a really, really deep philosophy and obviously we've got a very rich history of developing the best players, and we've got to ensure that the players are on board with the club's philosophy first and foremost. And if I'm being honest, if the lads aren't willing to put the effort in and go the extra mile, then it's going to reflect in the results that they're going to get on the field of play in the long term. So we work with the individuals. On a psychological basis as well as a physical basis as well. But on the whole, the lads have been absolutely fantastic, and the feedback that we've gained from the players and the results that we're seeing in terms of their mental strength has been absolutely fantastic.
That's really interesting, Chris, and sort of, having spoken to you before and sort of looking at your sort of career from a field, do you think for yourself in terms of your own development, you worked at Centre of Excellence, you worked with different age groups, you worked in the women's game as well, and do you think a combination of these things for you as a coach has sort of helped you grow as well? Obviously, everyone chooses their own career path, and it's sometimes down to chance, coincidence, goals, who knows really. But for yourself in your own development, do you find that sort of working in different sort of environments has sort of helped you as a coach understand people? Yeah, 100%.
I mean, rugby league, it's like no other game. It's more, you almost feel more. It's more of a family sport than football. I think, unfortunately, without being disrespectful to football, I think football is now in the position where it's controlled by money at the highest level. Whereas you look at like the lesser known sports such as rugby league, and people want to learn, people want to be part of the community. The fans want to get to know you, you want to get to know the fans. So being able to be in different cultures, for a better way of putting it, it's a priceless experience, and it allows you to develop and adapt your coaching methods and your own philosophies as well, to become a better coach overall and ultimately a better person.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you made a really good point there. And certainly in my experience of working in sport over the years, I found football with the greatest respect. I love the game, and I've had the opportunity to work at various levels. I do think that money, certainly at the highest level, has influenced general, day-to-day sort of the mindset type thing. And all that said and done, there's fantastic professionals. But like you says, I certainly think rugby league is a more communal sport in that respect, and sort of hopefully it sort of stays that way, and you got the lads there putting it in, and I suppose their aspirations would be to play for Bradford. Am I right in saying that, Chris? That's where they sort of
exactly that, Jimmy. I mean, there's been a good turnover in players in sort of transitional period from players going from under 19s up to the first team over the last couple of years. I think the current vice captain of the first team came through the ranks, having also been played junior amateur rugby league within the local area as well, which has been really good. I think rugby league is one of those sports that it's almost like when you're in school, it's like it's that person that tries the hardest.
Yes.
But they really struggle to League World Cup happening later this year as well. There's a lot of funding for growing the game in rugby league with a lot of amateur rugby league clubs getting involved with different projects that, like the Bradford Bulls Community Foundation, for example. Ryan and the team there are doing some great work getting involved with CPD opportunities for the community teams. Even the community teams have been doing online Zoom sessions as well with the club, just to get that engagement and to establish and grow the game of rugby league within the area.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, certainly in Salford there was a buzz. There's been a buzz, last few seasons with the team, the success of the team, doing well, playing some good rugby league as well. And I suppose your point there, I think that's a great way of putting it. Really, there's so much effort that goes into the game by so many people, but also the players. As athletes, I mean, you'll be better placed than a lot of people to comment as athletes. What's your take on the athleticism? I mean, for me, they're some of the best athletes in the world to sort of go through that. Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal. I mean, one thing that's key to point out as well is obviously every position is going to have a different quality. So you look at the backs and the forwards. There, what we expect of them is going to be different. One position, we look at a number 9, a number 8, for example, might be a bit more robust than say a number 2, who might be a bit more quicker or a bit speedier. We just got to look at the individual, what their experience is, and what position they're playing in the community club as well. Because a lot of the time, the technical coaches will put a player maybe in the front row, whereas in his amateur club he might be playing at the back row or in centre. So I think a lot of it's understanding the player and sort of their background. But in terms of their athleticism, I can't fault the lads. They've all got a first class attitude, and they give their all in training. Of course, you do have those that do outshine other people, as with any other sport, really.
No, absolutely, and sort of moving away from rugby league, back to football. You've established your own club. I mean, I find that really fascinating. That's probably everyone's dream. A lot of people's dream anyway. To sort of the amount of times, Chris, as a youngster, I used to play Football Manager and think, I want the countless hours if I ever owned the club. And so, tell us about the club. What's happening there, Chris? You've got you founded the club, I believe. What's the
Well, basically, on an athletic football club. Wow, where do I start with that? I think a lot of it, Jimmy, if I'm being honest, I mean, I've been in and around football coaching for the best part of 21, nearly 22 years now, from grassroots. And one thing I have done a lot of in lockdown is it's given me the opportunity to network and speak to a lot of professional footballers and a lot of other professionals within the games, psychologists, football agents, and free agent players. And one of the things that we're finding is there's not really anywhere for them to go when they come out of the game, because one thing we find is it's almost like a click to an extent with certain clubs, and some players are so used to a certain way of training that they almost don't want to go from playing for Accrington Stanley, for example, to then go and play for, no disrespect to these clubs, but go and play for like a Wardle Athletic, for example. They want to know that that there's a structure and there's a structure in place with the right people in place that have got the experience as well to help them develop. And I just decided that it'll be great to set my own football team up, and I put a post out on Facebook. I was quite overwhelmed. Within about 2 days, I had phone calls from about 10 different people within 48 hours, asking about how they got involved, how to get involved and everything. And then all of a sudden, what was meant to be a 6-month project ended up with us having this first session last night after 3 weeks of setting the club up. For me, it's about improving the community of Rochdale, providing the player pathway, and improving people's mental health, because a lot of footballers tend to either get released from clubs, or a lot of people tend to stop playing football because they fall out of love with the game. And one of the things I do on Athletic is create a community where people can come in, and they know when to have a laugh and they know when to train. And that's the sort of community we're looking to build. And and if we can replicate that and improve people's mental health, and we can get people fit at the same time. And let's face it, we've over the last 12 months, I think we've all probably put a couple of extra pounds on.
Absolutely,
it.
Yeah.
Myself included on that one. And if we my strengths of fitness with my business and football, so I thought, why not combine the two and create a good community at the same time?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Next week off the back of that, we're going to be running a rugby camp, which is coming under the football club brand, so that we can sort of become a sports in the community element as well, which will then bring players into our club. And then we've also been in conversations over the last couple of weeks with other semi-professional and even grassroots clubs have been able to provide a player pathway for some of their players as well. And I mean, next year, for example, we've got one of the guys I know from a local grassroots club. Their club actually stops at under 18s level. So what they're going to do is they're going to use us as a feeder club. So as soon as they finish at Springfield at under 18s, they then get sort of pushed towards us to come and play senior football.
That's tremendous, and it would have been a lot of hard work to do that, I would imagine, Chris, to sort of establish a club. And what sort of level are they going to be playing at to begin with?
So at the moment, I mean, I think the key thing, Jimmy, at the moment is the consistency and stability of the club first and foremost. Because what we have seen, unfortunately, is if we look at the likes of Droylsden, local to us, who are a club with fantastic tradition,
absolutely,
who have unfortunately not entered the league last season. I think because through no fault of their own, because of the financial problems that COVID presented with a lot of non-league clubs. And then, of course, you've got the grassroots clubs, and you've got other non-league clubs that are folding or being unable to produce the teams because they're entering leagues and then it's getting cancelled 5 minutes later. So players and managers are going to start getting a bit knocked off. So people leave the game. So for me this year, it's all about getting some players on board, building the foundations, getting a good 18 to. The aim is to get 18 to 20 players training regularly, Jimmy, this year, and we're currently in negotiations with some clubs about having some friendlies this year, and potentially running a tournament at different stages of the year as well, just to give the lads a bit of competitive edge. And then next year we're looking at entering one team into the Manchester League, and then within the next 3 years we're looking at applying to be members of the Northwest Counties League.
Wow.
Which I'm beginning to find is a lot harder than what it's sort of presented.
No, absolutely, I can imagine, absolutely, and certainly, with my involvement at sort of Baker, I see the great work by the manager there, Brent Peters, and the staff, and there's a lot, not just on the field, off the field too, and that's for sure. And it might be something we sort of touch base on, Chris, just sort of going off piece to bit. Maybe
let's get friendly.
Let's get friendly, and absolutely, would sort of. But and I think that's what it's all about, like he says. I mean, it's sort of getting out there and providing the players an opportunity. And there are players out there. I mean, I suppose there are players out there. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, getting the social element going, but you never know. I mean, there are players that do slip the net. They just need opportunity, a bit of encouragement, the right training. One thing's for sure,
Exactly.
Chris, with yourself, they'll be getting the right sort of training they need with your experience, that's for sure. So,
definitely. I mean, the good thing one thing I would like to do, Jimmy, is build a really good network of, or a really good relationship with clubs in the local community, and the likes of yourself and Brent of Bacup, people at Rochdale St Clements and Sacred Heart and Bury AFC, and build that, and it sort of build really good professional relationships, because you never know what opportunities can arise from them, and if there's a player that they like at our club in the future, or if there's player and they want that, it's going to make it easier for them to come and approach us to take that player, for example.
Absolutely.
At this level, there's not really going to be any fees involved, but I remember reading, I think Manchester United about 20, 30 years ago wanted to buy a player from a non-league club, and I think the form of payment was a batch of footballs and about 20 bibs, I think it was. And these little things help, and in return, if we can provide players to hopefully go on and play at a high level, if the likes of Bacup or Bury have got players that are being released, hopefully, the management of these clubs can turn around and say, well, you know what?
Absolutely,
it's a lower level than what you're going to be playing at the moment, but why don't you go to one athletic and see what they're all about, and even if it's just to get the fitness levels up, and by having players of that standard, it's only going to improve the squad in terms of their mentality, in terms of standards, and if we can build and develop these relationships and improve the players' chances of getting to the highest level, then we're on a winner.
Absolutely, and I think as well as that, I suppose, the confidence that with your experience of working in professional football and the conditioning experience, it sort of gives you confidence to know if you send the player to you, they're going to be doing the right things in training, which is sort of key, and getting the right sort of ideas about what they should be doing. So there is that. I mean, it must have been a lot of work, Chris, I imagine, for you to sort of get it off the ground. Was there a lot involved?
There is and there isn't really. I mean, I think the key thing with it, Jimmy, is having that clear vision and knowing exactly where you want to be. I'm very fortunate to have a business coach that I work with from a personal training company. And I've got a very supportive network, fortunately. But I think it's just taking baby steps. So obviously with the football club, the hardest thing is finding the facility. Trying to find, because it does cost a lot of money. I think you're looking at between £30 and £50 an hour to hire a five-a-side pitch, for example. And some, with the return to training from sort of March 29th onwards, a lot of grassroots clubs are going to be training on local fields. So it is trying to find the right place, and even going on the field isn't an easy job, because the council tend to lease fields to different grassroots clubs. So I had an instance where I was doing one-to-one coaching, for example, last year on what I thought was a public field, but then I found out that it was actually leased by a school. So we have to discuss fees, and we have to make sure that we're not trespassing, and there's a lot of digging and research that needs doing, and one thing I am finding out is that it is a lot harder than what I initially thought. But you know what? It's a challenge, and it's something I'm really enjoying and buzzing off. And some of the lads that have come on board with the club, I've got a guy called Paul Hill who's come on board as player coach. He had a really good. He's got a good background in football. Coached through the youth ranks at Rochdale, and then since being released, he's been really heavily involved within the hospitality sector. He's been involved 3 weeks, and he's already trying to negotiate sponsorship deals for us to sort of fund kit and to fund venues. And it's people like that we want to get into the club, having the right characters, the right people, and you know what, although I've got 20 odd years of experience, I want to be able to breed the next best coaches, the next Eddie Howes. And if we can get if we can provide opportunities or even employment opportunities for the people of Rochdale and the local community, you know, I'd love to be able to do that. And you know, if there's any listeners that are interested in getting into coaching, or want to find out more about us, and you've got a good skill set, feel free to sort of get in touch, and you know, I'm sure we can find a role for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to get your details, Chris, for sure. And just to sort of, and for yourself, it's like a legacy, Chris, in terms of, you know, your own leaving a legacy in football, really. I'm sure that you've got a vision for the club to be there, you know, for the next 100 or so years even. Is it sort of, how does that feel? I mean, is that sort of one thing that sort of came to mind for yourself, Chris, in terms of maybe not at the moment, leaving a bit of a legacy there, or for all your work and that, or?
I'd like to hope so. I mean, to be honest, for me, it's more about providing something for the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Improving people's fitness and mindset with the love of football, and providing more importantly a player pathway for players. Whether it's a new player that's never played football at age 6 that wants to come in for one-to-ones or wants to come in on small group training, or if it's a 36, 37, or even a 21-year-old that's just been released by a Conference North club or a North West Counties League, and they want to come in and get some fitness and have a training base.
Absolutely.
You know, come in and obviously get involved in, you know, and if we can be part of a player's journey to stardom, then you know we've done what we've achieved. But for me personally, I mean, I'd love to, you know, although I've sort of named it after myself, I don't want it to be all about me, the football club. You know, it might not sound like it being called on our message, but but yeah, for me, I mean, the goals are there. I mean, you know, people listening might think, you know what, you're not going to get into North Counties League in 4 or 5 years' time, but who knows? You know,
we never know. Absolutely, I mean, now we know perfectly well in this city, in Salford, that 8-9 years ago the team was in sort of Northwest, and now obviously you know in league football. So you know, obviously there's a hand with the class of 92, the United lads, but who knows what can happen in football. There is a lad that's been released, I think he's roughly 32 years of age, a striker, Chris, if you're interested.
Sounds good, mate.
I was sort of alluding to Aguero there for Man City.
But yeah, what I might do is I might offer him a packet of protein biscuits and a lifetime supply of tea and coffee.
Well, the thing is, he says I mean, by all accounts, he's looking to stay in the UK. I suppose it's going to be hard for him to play Premier League, having been with the City for that long. So maybe he'll sort of consider, you know. But I mean, sort of looking at that, Chris. I mean, this is sort of one thing I want to sort of, you know, look at sort of going off piste a bit, but I've spoken to a few guests about it. I think it sort of deserves a mention. But Aguero's a striker, Chris. I mean, you know, as a city here, we've got United, we've got City with great sporting tradition in and around the area, irrespective of who you support. You know, we all know an athlete, a sports person when we see one. But what's your take on Aguero? Where does he sort of stand in the big scheme of things?
You know what, Jimmy? If you look at Man City and you know what the club have achieved over the last 20 years, I mean, what we've got to remember is I think it's 98, 99. They were in Division 2. I think playing Gillingham in the playoff final. Yeah. And you know, in the way that the club's vision, and I think it's fantastic. And you look at what Aguero's done since he came in as a virtual. I think he was a starlet at Atletico Madrid.
That's right. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are probably thinking, you know, no one's heard of Aguero. You know, why is he coming here? Why is he, you know, he's not going to get the typical negative responses from people, isn't it? You know, he's not good enough for. And then for him to come in and have the effect that he's got. I mean, everyone still thinks of that Martin Tyler moment. I think it is that the Aguero moment where he scores against QPR. Yeah. And you know, you just got to look at the love that the fans of Man City are giving him at the moment, and and what he's done for the city of Manchester in terms of raising the club's profile, and what he's achieved as a player, I think is nothing short of phenomenal. And he deserves to go on in his next chapter and continue playing at the highest of levels. And I'm pretty confident, Jimmy, that he'll carry on that for a good 4 or 5 years at least.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as a conditioning coach, I suppose, looking at it from that point of view, is it so much sort of looking at things, these days, the training methods, Chris? Do you think the training methods have helped players, the sports science, elongate their careers? Because you mentioned there 5 or so years, but that's sort of realistic when you think about sort of the Ronaldos of this world, playing some of these best football at the age he is now, and it shows if you look after yourself as a player, you got a chance to keep playing for longer than years gone by.
You know what, Jimmy? Yeah, 100%. And to be a success in whatever you're doing, whether you're an office worker, whether you're a bus driver, if you're willing to invest time and sometimes money in yourself, then you're going to prolong your experience, and you're going to become a better person overall. And the good thing is, we hear about people wasting money all the time, and I know I've sort of alluded to, football being taken over by money in the higher echelons of the game. But when you look at the likes of Ronaldo and Messi and Ronaldo and the lifestyle that they lead, they do it and they invest their time and the money in themselves.
Absolutely. Look, Ibrahimovic as well.
Exactly that. And I used to work when I was at Barnsley. I used to work with a guy called Bruce Dyer, he's become a cult hero at Barnsley. And he was, I think he was the first £1 million player, teenager from Watford to Crystal Palace, and what Bruce has done in Barnsley by creating, I think it's Love Life UK in his football legacy, by using his reputation and using the people he knows to go on and create the community he's got there. It's just testament to the investment, to those sorts of people investing the right things at the right time, in the right places, and as a result, people are benefiting.
Absolutely.
And if they can benefit, and if you can benefit, or everyone else can benefit, let's go for it.
Absolutely, and that's a great point, and I think it's really important. I think it's a great feeling. Obviously, this last year's been tough, and this is a pre-record. Obviously, things can change, week by week, but there seems to be a plan in place at the moment. But one thing's for sure, football and sport means a lot to the people in this country, and it's it's really buzzing, isn't it? When you sort of think to Saturdays. Football means a lot to people. The game day and the buzz in the towns and up and down the country on sporting fields, the youngsters training, and it really is a buzz, isn't it, Chris? And I think we've obviously missed that in the last year or so. I mean, we've had sort of, in and out, things have changed, and we've got out there, I think it's really important that obviously, when it's obviously, safety is a priority. But it is important. Activity is a huge part of people's life. Do you not think it is huge, Chris? Being out there, social element. These things are, are really important for people.
It is that release, isn't it? And people get into routines, and it's a habit, isn't it? You go and get your hair cut on the first Saturday you go and get your hair cut first Saturday of every month, and then you go watch and then you go and have a coffee or a beer. And then you go to the football, and then you go for a takeaway on the way home.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not really promoting a very good healthy lifestyle.
No. Then you're booking for a session with Chris on Monday, and you run it all off. Absolutely. But you need that really. I think you make a good point there. I think that all things in moderation, unless obviously there's a reason for not consuming something for whatever reason. But I think absolutely. I mean, the weekends football is huge, like you've mentioned there. You sort of years ago we used to have like the tradition was you watch the football, match of the day in the evening. Now obviously it's changed, and you can access football everywhere, but it is huge, that's for sure, the buzz, and irrespective of what level you play, I think any level really, just being out there and getting amongst it all. But just before make sure we sort of get your details, Chris. If any of our listeners want to get involved with the football club you sort of put together, where can they get in touch, Chris? If any listeners think, well, we'll drop you an email, nothing ventured, nothing gained, and see what happens.
No, definitely. Well, they can get hold of us all over social media. For the football side of it, if you're on Facebook, it is facebook.com/Honour Athletic Football. Honour spelled HON for November, OR, and then Athletic Football, all one word. We're on Instagram as well, again, which is Honour Athletic FC.
Yeah.
But if anyone wants to ping us an email, the best way to get me is through my work email, which is chris@trainwithhonour.co.uk.
Yeah.
And feel free to sort of reach out.
Brilliant. I mean, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on how things go. That's for sure. Chris, and I mean, where Bradford's concerned, when you guys come up against Salford, we wish you all the best. Unless you're playing Salford, then I'm afraid
next season, hopefully. I think John Keir, the first team manager, is looking at promotion, but
absolutely precise.
The first team haven't started very well. I think we lost the game at the weekend, and we got knocked out of the Challenge Cup the week before, and but I think we were missing a few key players with the first team. But fingers crossed.
Absolutely, and equally with the football club, we wish you all the best. And unless you're sort of playing us over at Bay Cup, then that's where we draw the line. I'm afraid.
No.
Yeah. But no, it's been great speaking to you, Chris. Been nice to speak to you, and thanks for coming on board the show. And we wish you every success in everything that you do. Thanks again, Chris.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Jimmy. Take care. All the best, pal.
Thank you. Ciao.